The days are over where people have anybody else's best interest. A lot of over, like it's where companies certainly don't, because they're not an individual.
Yeah.
It's a spreadsheet. They're thinking with a different.
Yes, they are.
They're thinking it's a spreadsheet.
Yep.
Trying to have a brain.
Yes. And so like if you're China, right, and you now have like some of the biggest sovereign wealth funds, which is just,
what does that mean?
Oh man, it's crazy because, I have friends I grew up with. Some of them got advanced degrees from college and some of them barely graduated high school. I mean, I was somebody that barely graduated high school, but, they didn't go to college, right? And so like I have a huge spectrum of people I love. And some of them will tell me about like the Illuminati are controlling things. I'm like, dude, no. But go look at sovereign wealth funds, right? Sovereign wealth funds are countries like China that are pooling together these huge pools of cash, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And then they can use that strategically to buy things, to drive the markets how they want. Now, here in the United States, we just believe that the profit is how everything. So like, if you can make more money doing A than B, then you should go do A, because that's how our system operates. But China goes, no, we want to create the most jobs we can for the country. And therefore, we're going to take all of our assets. We're going to try to create the most jobs, not the most profit, but the most jobs, right? And so then what happens is you have Smithfield Foods, 1 in 4 American pigs, and you have a Chinese company, and they go like, we don't care necessarily about per se driving the maximum profit, right? Like our government is saying to us that we need to go overseas and buy up food and water. So we'll pay you a 30% premium over the share price. Well, for the American company, that's like 30% premium over the share price. Like I have a fiduciary responsibility to my shareholders. Like I have to sell the company. Like I have to give you guys the company. Otherwise I could actually legally get in jeopardy here for saying no to that offer, right? Because I am legally obligated to return profits to the shareholder. Well, the Chinese company is operating under a completely different system, right? And so that's where you begin to see, gosh, this is probably super in the weeds, but that's where you begin to see like this international power play. And like you're talking about, like where the US is so focused on profits, China's like, cool, you're super focused on profits.
We're focused on the future.
And we can manipulate you because you're super focused on profits.
Oh, because if they own a fourth of the industry.
Yeah, or they just know like the American company is always going to do whatever is most profitable. And we don't like, so we can buy that, like they know how our system works,
right?
And they're getting better at manipulating that system. Is like right out of the gate when I started looking at this.
I see what you're saying. So instead of this American company saying, hey, this is an American company, let's keep it here, let's keep it American. It's a part of like, it affects our GDP, all these sorts of things. They just think, for profit, and China knows that.
Yes.
So it's like, let's just pay more and we'll definitely get it.
That's exactly
It's a wrap.
That's it.
Because the way that the American company's built, their shareholders would get upset if they didn't. If they took a vote, the shareholders would be like, why didn't you do it? We would have made dividends or whatever.
Not only why didn't you do it, but we could sue you and probably win if you didn't return us the max profits. And so China has sovereign wealth funds, which are literally trillions and trillions of dollars of pools of cash.
Whose money is it? Theirs?
It's their money, yeah.
Individuals or the government?
The government's.
Okay.
Yep. And the government can decide how to allocate that, right? And so if the US had that, you would always be allocating it for whatever is going to make you the most profits. China's going to be allocating it potentially for whatever gives them the most political strength, whatever makes them the most powerful country. It's very different. And that's what sovereign wealth funds are. And they've become huge. They're like, as I understand, I went and talked to this professor, this academic at Stanford, who's one of the foremost experts in the country on these things. As I understand it, they're fairly new. The Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, they also have really big sovereign wealth funds. China's got really big sovereign wealth funds. Surprisingly, Norway has a really big sovereign wealth fund. But they can use these things strategically, especially against a profit-driven country like the U.S.
Wow. So it's crazy to think that being profitable could be your weakness.
That's interesting, right? Yeah.
Wow. The world's largest sovereign wealth fund as of December 2022 was China Investment Corporation, managing assets reaching around $1.35 trillion US dollars. Where do we rank in that?
Pull up like the top 10 list of sovereign wealth funds.
Norway, Qatar, GIC, the one we just talked about, National Welfare. Oh no, China Investment Corporation.
And Temasek, that's Singapore.
Public Investment Fund could be us, but who knows? Oh, it's Saudi Arabia. Huh. So those are the big 10 biggest sovereign wealth funds. So those can really.
And somebody's got to have a list for how much assets each of them have. At 1.7 trillion seems small to me.
But we're not even on the top 10 list.
We don't operate a sovereign. As far as I know, the U.S. doesn't operate a sovereign wealth fund like this because it's not how we think.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start to. Yeah, you don't think about how perspective and mindset affects how an entire country operates, really. No, the United States does not have a federal sovereign wealth fund, but several states do. These funds are usually smaller than international SWFs and can serve different purposes. For example, the Alaska Permanent Fund Corporation, established in the early 1980s, has roughly $67 billion in assets and was created to ensure that Alaskan citizens benefited from oil extracted from state lands. Wow, so that's some forward thinking.
And that's like Norway too. Norway's is very similar to Alaska, where it's like they are an oil wealthy nation, and so they created a sovereign wealth fund to benefit the citizens.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah.
Texas also, it says, has 2 sovereign wealth funds, including the Texas Permanent School Fund, which was founded in 1854 and manages $46.5 billion in assets to benefit public schools. Wow, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Just to think that they had that forethought.
Yeah, totally.
And they're going to think maybe I'm going to own the land the school's on, just different things like that.
Yeah, and then so these foreign countries have these massive pools of cash that they can use strategically. Yeah, it gets interesting, man. You start like seeing the chess players on the board like moving in different ways.